As Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of the Faculty, which is my whole title, I am responsible for the whole academic enterprise. That means that I hire and look after the promotion of faculty, that I am in charge of the entire curriculum, or at least I'm responsible for ensuring that the curriculum is good and passes muster with the state, and that faculty are teaching it. And I'm also responsible for things like the registrar's office for the library and for those kinds of services that are all part of the academic enterprise. It's really fun to be here at Whittier College, and it was especially fun when all the students arrived on campus. I was very excited.
What made you decide to take the job here at Whittier?
Well, last year I was looking at a number of positions at different schools, and I actually had a choice. And when I was offered the job at Whittier, I immediately accepted because of several reasons. One was the warm and wonderful atmosphere here, not just the warm climate, but the real feeling of warmth and intellectual activity and the rest from the faculty that I had been talking with and the students that I met who were on the committee. And the sense that this was a school that had a real mission and a real purpose and wanted to go somewhere. And I certainly wanted to be part of that team.
You are also, and I quote, a nationally respected historian of science and medicine who specializes in issues of gender and race. Your findings are published at top universities, including Yale and Harvard, and you focus on the historical relationship of medical science and the complex gender and racial aspects of professionalization within the U.S. Can you tell us a little bit about your research, why it's important to you, and why you think it's important to the world?
Well, that overall statement sort of summarizes what I've worked on in my first book, which was a look at midwives and physicians and the transition to physician-assisted childbirth in the 20th century. And I have written extensively on the history of childbirth and obstetrics. And then my current work, which has been focusing on the history of medical education, and the book that I've been working on is a look at medical school admissions and the history of medical school admissions between 1920 and 1970. So how does that relate to the issue of professionalization? What does it mean? The question I ask is, what does it mean to be a scientific professional in the 20th century and the 21st century? And how does race and gender shape who that professional could or should be? And so I find that those kinds of questions in terms of gender and race really interesting. And because that was another thing that interested me in Whittier, this is the most diverse place I've ever been, with a very diverse faculty and very diverse student body. And that has been a passion of mine always. And having access to science and access to education is something that interests me intellectually. So, in fact, my research on the history of medical school admissions has helped me to understand the broader role of issues of race in terms of who got into school and who had access to education.
So how can you apply this research and interest to Whittier and its students and faculty?
Well, I think that's kind of obvious when you're looking at admission to college.
Yeah.
What does it mean? What do test results mean? I've written an article a couple of years ago that looked at the history of the MCAT, the Medical College Admissions Test. And in that, I looked at the use of a test which was purported to sort out scientifically who was academically better than somebody else. And the problem is that when the wrong men did well on the test, the creators of the test, it was the Association of American Medical Colleges, changed the test. Or, in fact, they downplayed it, such that the test now did not become important. So I have a kind of, I would say, dubious, might be too strong a word, but certainly critical look at the use of standardized testing. I know that sometimes it can measure merit and sometimes it doesn't, and that you can construct a test to look at certain things that you want the predetermined answers to. And in terms of the MCAT, at one point, instead of a figure of the heart and great vessels, they used a battlefield of the Civil War. And I later asked colleagues of mine who studied the Civil War what that meant. And it meant that groups of people who'd been in the United States a long time would have better knowledge and ability to understand what this map of the Battle of Chancellorsville really meant. And that wasn't testing scientific merit, it was testing your ability supposedly to memorize. So it's things like that that I do bring a critical eye to accepted ideas that in fact testing is meant to talk about merit. One of the things I critique in my book and in my 2 books and in the articles that I've written is the whole issue of what merit means in terms of science.
As a newcomer to Southern California, what has been your best and worst experience here locally thus far?
Oh, I think that I've had lots of best experiences. Certainly going to the beaches here has been just wonderful, and my husband and I are confirmed beachcombers, so we've been along the beaches and the South Beaches down to Huntington Beach and Newport Beach, and we've been all the way up to near Malibu and various different parts of the weekend, and those have been wonderful. The ability to pick oranges and avocados. I was born in Vermont. We never had orange trees or avocado trees. Indeed, I didn't know that avocados grow on big trees, so that's been fun. The worst experience, I think my worst experience is probably shared by many Californians, and that is I had to take 4 different visits to the DMV before I could get my California driver's license.
What is something that you want all Whittier College students and faculty to know about you, personally? Something about Dr. Borst.
Well, first of all, I want you to know that I'm approachable. One of the big reasons I really like being a chief academic officer at a small school is the ability to talk to students and to have students come talk to me. And so I am approachable. I have 2 of my own children, my 2 children, one of whom just finished college about a year ago, and my daughter, who's still in college and a college senior,